the war came to us, we didn't go looking a war. We were very young, we were engaged in the same sort of activities that most young people today would be interested in: sports, music, dancing, friends, socialising.
As the conflict gradually got worse, the rioting in the town right across Northern Ireland and the sectarian killings, I had two choices. I could quite easily have perhaps joined a paramilitary organisation or joined what was the newly formed Ulster Defence Regiment.
The reaction from the state at the time that led many people like myself, 16, 17-year-olds, to want to find a way to fight back. And that's how we got into republicanism and into the IRA, if you like. The decision that I made wasn't for historical or cultural reasons or anything to do with history. It was more purely down to anger and, I suppose, if I'm being honest, revenge, because of all of the different things that happened to me as part of the time in security forces.
But the political ideology that I had would have been just that we are right, they're wrong. They're using violence to maintain the state, and I would believe it would be right to use violence to try and break the state.
There was no political party that we could vote into power.
Young working class nationalist people like myself couldn't find a political way of trying to achieve aims and objectives.
At the end of the day, the choice was yours, and your actions came from that choice. So you can't blame environment, school, family. You were the person who made the choice.
The decision that I made was going to lead to one of two things. It was either going to lead to me being killed as part of the actions that I was taking, or it was going to eventually lead to me ending up in prison. When you go into prison, everything stands still. It stays still while times are moving on outside.
My sense when I was arrested was tremendous frustration at that what I wasn't going to be able to do because I wasn't on the outside. I didn't see it in terms of what it would stop me having. It was what it would stop me doing.
I found absolutely nothing good about prison. Prison was a very, very difficult experience. It was very, very difficult for our families. And what is worth remembering is that most of the families were unaware of what their husbands were involved in. Most of the families, the wives, the mothers, the fathers, the grandfathers, grandmothers, children, had no choice in the decisions that people like myself were making. And when things went wrong outside, say it was family crisis, that's when you felt that you had no control, that you've lost any way of helping people that you love on the outside or doing anything. You're just out of the equation.
And you don't see the struggle that your parents and your wider family go through. Certainly when there's a family problem or a family thing that happens and you're in prison, you feel totally and utterly useless because there's nothing you can do, there's no way to help.
A large percentage of marriages and relationships split up. I think the last research that was done within Loyalism was it was as high as 90% of relationships broke. That meant there was women left alone, there was children left alone, and the relationships totally broke down.
You spend 10 or 15 years in a 10 by 12 cell where you have no liberty whatsoever. You miss your family growing up, you miss your children. When you come out to the outside world, it's totally alienating to you.
Anybody who says that prison didn't worry them, that it didn't have an impact on them, is a liar. That's not true. When you come out, it isn't the same as it was when you went in, and you have a lot of catching up to do. The normal things people take for granted have gone, and you're starting from scratch, and you're trying to get yourself back into a normal working life, if you like, and it's very difficult that way.
A lot of my friends haven't still been able to adjust 10, 15 years later on. They can't settle down, they can't come to terms with normal life. A lot of close friends of mine have lost the whole sense of normal living, and in coming out it became very, very difficult for them to adjust and integrate back into the community.
The ex-prisoner community has done a lot of work since the beginning of the process, and even before it, to cross the traditional barriers to go across the community. Ex-combatants were sitting at the same platform saying the same thing, seemingly singing off the same hymn sheet.
To ensure that more and more people who have proved their commitment to their communities, i.e. the former political prisoner community, are the people who are now sitting at the tables and making those decisions which affect us as members of the community.
When you're involved in conflict, you only see what's inflicted and you don't see what you inflict. And to see what you inflict, it does make a difference to you.
If I can respect people for a cause they fought and died, can they respect me?
It is very, very important to us that we educate our young people. It's very, very important to us that we look at all sides of the conflict and try and understand all sides of the conflict. And really, our biggest aim is to stabilise and ensure that the peace we have remains, and we hold on to the peace that we have at the moment.
And I believe that in general, the ex-prisoner community has the respect of the community.
We do talk about our past experiences, but we talk about our past experiences as a learning tool to the young people.
But sometimes you can be there in some sort of guiding fashion, especially with young men who think conflict is the way forward. Now, when they're talking to people who were involved in conflict, and especially if you get into the human story of the conflict rather than the political story, that is where you might have an effect.
But you ask any former combatant and he will tell you, I do not want to be glorified. I fought for a cause I believed in. I served my time. I now want to go back into society. I want to be welcomed into society, but I also want to contribute to society.
We need the young people to understand that there's no glorification in being part of any conflict, that there's no glorification in going to prison.